Hello, I am back with another 1cc commentary, this time of DoDonPachi DaiOuJou's Arrange L mode. In Arrange L, you are locked into using the laser type, and so I decide to go for type B. You start at full power, and so I like the coverage that type B gives with its shot. Even though it isn't as fast as the type A ship, and I think the coverage in the later portions of the game ends up helping me more in terms of survival. So the first thing I'll point out is what makes Arrange L different from the other ranges is that you get this gauge on the bottom right corner called the Tensei gauge. And so what happens is that if you laser a large or medium-sized enemy, your gauge fills up, and so if your gauge is at max when you destroy, you are awarded a bullet cancel. This is really good not only for score but for survival, because all the bullets fired by that enemy are cancelled, and I think even bullets that are caught in the explosion are cancelled too. So I'm going to use it to my advantage, especially later on, where I will just focus my laser and strafe back and forth to destroy enemies and get the cancel. If you laser a larger enemy but you don't have your Tensei gauge maxed out, you don't get the bullet cancel. So it's very important that you focus your laser for as long as possible on those larger enemies so that you can get the cancel. Here I also have the ability to activate a hyper whenever I want. The hyper gauge fills up fairly quickly, so you don't really need to worry about chaining too much to get a lot of hypers. And the even better part about it is that the hypers are triggered automatically if you're hit, and if you don't have a hyper when you're hit, then it'll trigger an auto bomb. So I'm given 2 bombs here to start, and I have a hyper on standby, so if I get hit, it'll trigger a hyper, and then if you get hit again, it'll trigger a bomb until you run out of resources, and then you'll lose a life. So kind of neat how the Arrange is set up that way to encourage your survival, your survivability. So here we're on the first boss here. We're hit with the loop 1 patterns in the game, and slightly easier version of the loop 1 patterns, but what I can do is, since I'm at full power, I'll just hyper, and then I end up shredding almost the entire health bar of this boss, but I get hit, so I trigger an auto bomb, which that's fine. If you have the resources, then you don't have to worry about getting hit, because then you just trigger a bomb. The bomb that ends up going off depends on the button you're holding down. So if you're holding the laser when you get hit, then your laser bomb will go off, and then likewise if you're holding your shot when you get hit, then the wider radius bomb will go off. So here we are in stage 2. Stage 2, it'll be a little more important to be mindful of where you are applying your laser and to make sure that you get the bullet cancels. So especially right here where I have that tank on the left, I'm going to try to laser it, get the Tensei gauge up, and then I get the bullet cancel. And so it's not as flashy, and it's a little more subtle than other games in terms of the bullet cancel, so you don't get that massive juicy cancel feeling, but it is nice that those bullets disappear off the screen. So here we are on the structure in the middle, and another good thing about this, along with the rest of the Arrange modes, is that defeating a mid-boss and a boss awards you an extend, so you can go into the last stages with a lot of resources to survive, which we will need it. Here you'll see that I'm going to need all the resources I can get for this clear, but we'll get to that. So here at the stage 2 mid-boss, I have a hyper on standby, level 3 hyper, which is nice, and I'm going to try not to use it as much as possible, mainly trying to use my hyper defensively, or I might save it. I'm thinking of saving it for this hyper corridor coming up. The bad thing about this mode compared to in terms of the hypers is that the hypers don't last a long time, so although they do fill up quickly, the hypers are very short. So with this corridor and the hyper, I'm using my shot and I'm just strafing back and forth between these buildings and building my chain up. I get to 469, which is pretty good. I'm not deliberately trying to chain these levels. I haven't quite learned that routing yet, but I know that for this section in particular, it's pretty easy. If you use your hyper and you go around back and forth, then you can build a decent chain for your enjoyment and your hyper building. So here we're at the stage 2 boss. This boss is challenging to me for a specific reason, these needles here. So I'm very poor at dodging overlapping needle patterns, and it's a big reason why I also haven't been able to clear Esperade yet, which has a lot of these needle patterns that are fired on you. And so here I'm not doing too bad. Just have to thread the needle and find the lane that you go in, but for some reason it gives me trouble, so I end up getting hit. I'm very happy that I have an auto bomb here. This one is a bit more manageable for me to dodge, so I just have to find the lane to pass through here. And here we're at the final pattern where kind of squeeze on through, and then I have a bomb in stock, so I'm not too worried that if I get hit I'll trigger an auto bomb, and so not too worried there. And here we are at the end of stage 2. So stage 3 is where things start to ramp up a little bit, and this is where getting the bullet cancels are particularly important. With these, especially with those ships that have destructible parts, they kind of blow up 4 times, so you get 4 bullet cancels from them, and clearing the screen like that is going to be really important for giving yourself room to breathe. Here's this giant structure where trying to get the Tensei cancel, and remember, I did not get a bullet cancel there, so making my life a little bit harder here, and I pull off a weird dodge there. I thought I was going to get hit, but thank you small hitboxes on my ship. And I have a hyper on standby, so I'm gonna Tensei this building here, get the bullet cancel, and I'm just gonna go across the screen, prioritize the big enemies, because whenever I do, then I get that bullet cancel, and then I can clean up the smaller ones. And that's going to be a pattern that I'll try to use throughout the game here. Prioritize the larger enemies, and then use that time that I get from the bullet cancel to clean up the smaller ones that are coming in from the sides. And so here we're at the mid boss here. I would have gotten hit, so I activate my hyper, and then since I'm very powerful, I end up cleaning him up very quickly. And then here I'm going to move slightly to the left as far as I can, and then I'm going to get this hyper pickup. And then now this is just a matter of, like I said before, you Tensei a large enemy, get the bullet cancel, and then you clean up everyone on the side. So I go to the side, clean up these popcorn enemies, head over here, Tensei this structure here, and then I'm going to go to the side, clean these up, Tensei this one, clean them up. I should have Tensei'd that bigger ship as well, but I managed to creep my way along to get him in time. And then for the B pickups here, the B pickups are good for score and for hyper generation, but I don't really bother too much with picking up the Bs. That was a little tight there. But a nice thing is that in the port you can enable an option so that it'll show you where the Bs are. It doesn't apply to when you play the arcade modes, but in the arrange modes you can make it so that you have the B locations visible on your screen right there. And then if they're transparent like that, that means that you're shooting on them and they're transparent, but you have to laser them to make them visible and able to be picked up. So here we are on the stage 3 boss. This boss I find a little challenging too. It has a lot of those overlapping patterns, but it doesn't have any needles, so it's not my absolute worst pattern to dodge here. So, and this comes fairly quickly, so I get hit there, trigger my hyper, and so here I'm gonna find a lane to cut back through those red bullets, and then I activate a bomb there because I would have gotten hit anyways, and then just kind of move back and forth here. Here you find a lane, you just kind of cruise on through it, and with the Type E ship it gets a little tight because of how slow it is, but as long as you move laterally through that pattern, then you'll make it through. And so going here, and then now we're approaching the final pattern here, which is this kind of a precursor to the stage 5 core U final pattern, where you have to kind of make your way through these little lanes that pop up here to not get hit. So overall I'm pretty happy with that fight. And heading into stage 4 I have 6 lives in stock, which I'm pretty good. So here I need as many lives as possible because the final fight is going to be very hard. I know I have a lot of trouble with the final fight. So stage 4, I'm being patient while a hyper floats down towards me. And the key here is destroying those turrets on the side as fast as possible. So if you have to hyper, if you have to, even if you have to bomb, try to destroy those as fast as possible, because yeah, like right there I would have gone walled off. And if you don't destroy them fast enough, they shoot out those kind of really tight spiral patterns. So not that first one, but that one right there is really difficult. But the good thing is that if you laser them, you get the bullet cancel. And so you can see I'm getting a bullet cancel from all those bullets that are getting caught by the explosion, which is giving me the space I need to move around. So now here we're going to get a rush of enemies, and I have to make sure that I have a lane to cut back in. I should have cut back a lot sooner than that. Now that I'm watching the replay, I saw the cutback lane, but I had a hyper in stock, so I ended up being able to get out of it. Now we're at the train section. In this section, since you can tensei these trains and get the bullet cancel, it's a bit easier. I should have gone around the train there instead of trying to go underneath it. So, but that's alright. And so I'm trying to creep my way through. It's a bit tougher with the Type B ship because it's a lot slower, but I can use my normal shot. And so here I'm going to go all the way around, going, and I would have made it, but I didn't want to risk it, and so I activated my hyper. Thought I could go all the way around and squeeze my way through here. Tensei. Oh, I thought I would tensei that train in the beginning, but I ended up being able to dodge that. So these ships can all be tensei'd as well. Well, I'm not really sure. Actually, no, it doesn't look like they can be. Oh yeah, they can be. So yeah, I wasn't sure why I decided to use my shot in the beginning there. I should have used my laser. And now I'm gonna get trapped. I'm making my way slowly, and yeah, I had to use my bomb. I would have gotten hit there. And then making my way through these popcorn enemies, approaching the secret extent here. And so with this one, it's important that you have to destroy the two guns on the side, and you can't, oh, and I made a huge mistake there. So you cannot damage the main gun with your bomb, or else you don't get your extend. So I got hit, and I ended up, even if you damage the side guns with the bomb, as long as you don't damage the core with the bomb, then you can still get it. But since I moved to the left to continue firing, that I don't get the secret extend there. So this rail section is, because you can tensei and get a bullet cancel, it makes it a little bit easier, but the movement is still random. So I got unlucky there, and I moved the wrong way, and so I ended up getting hit there. But if you can tensei these rails, then you get the bullet cancel, which makes this section significantly easier. Now we're at the next mid-boss here, and I have to destroy this gun before I advance too far, and I'm trying to make my way through, and there we go. So I got it, I'm destroying that, I get the extend, and pick up that B, and now we're at the stage 4 boss here. And I still have 5 lives in stock, so I'm feeling pretty good. And so now we're at this boss. This boss can be a little challenging. You have these overlapping patterns here that kind of curve, kind of weave your way through them, but you do get a tensei cancel if you laser it long enough without getting hit. And so now we're at this overlapping pattern, which these lanes can be pretty small to get into. I know I went into, well, you can't really do training mode in Arrange, so that's kind of a minus with this. There's no arcade challenge with the Arrange modes, but getting that pattern down took me a little bit of time to get used to. And so here I have to find the lane to get into, but I stick to the right because that tensei cancel gave me a lot of time to move around. And so here, when these gears pop up, I can head inside, do get some free damage in, and then when I see those gears trying to move again, then I exit, and then this pattern starts again. And so I know I'm gonna probably get hit eventually. Oh no, so I get another cancel, which is nice. Heading on to the final pattern. I don't have a hyper, but I do have a bomb in case I need to use it, so I'm not too worried. So yeah, if I use a bomb, the laser bomb is very powerful. It does a lot of damage, and so if you are to trigger a bomb, then I would trigger the laser bomb instead of the other one, the shot bomb. So heading into stage 5, this stage is made a lot easier, and because of the fact that I can tensei enemies, and it's kind of weird in this mode where the difficulty curve of the stages is a lot steeper in the beginning, So stages like stage 2, stage like 1, 2, and 3, not so much. It's significantly harder because you can't tensei as many enemies. Once you hit stage 4, and especially this one with stage 5, where you're just littered with these large ships and large tanks, you just hold your laser and just strafe back and forth, hold your laser, and then get those bullet cancels, and you can kind of, not saying that the stage is a breeze, because the stage is still difficult, but in terms of how difficult it is relative to the other stages, it's not that bad. It's a lot less. The difficulty curve is not as steep. And so here you are at this mid boss where you have to misdirect and kind of weave your way across the screen before it fires those lasers. And then I'm going to try to get, so I managed to defeat it before it did that pattern again, which is nice. Here we are at these bees, and like before, as long as if you can memorize the location that these bees are going to spawn, then you can tensei these bees and get a bullet cancel. Even when you do, you have to make sure to keep moving quickly because, okay, that, yeah, I did not plan that. I did not plan that dodge. That was a miracle dodge, but I tried to make my way around and it ended up working out very nicely. So don't try that at home, guys, boys and girls. And so working our way through here, and I'm trying to tensei as many as I can here, and I'm going slow. So I have a hyper, activate a hyper to not get hit, and I made it to the mid boss, and getting some free damage in before this pattern shows up. And so I tend to just stay towards the middle and not move too much, but it does get a little dense because the rotation of that pattern is random, even though the pattern itself is static. So it's semi-random. And here, another really tight dodge where I thought I was going to get hit there again. Ended up not getting hit, but I'm going to get walled off here and end up triggering the bomb, which is okay. I have plenty of resources in stock. I'm heading into the next boss here with these fireballs, and I don't make it in time into the middle, so I get clipped by one and activate my hyper. And then this is very important, that I should have used my regular shot to pick those bullets off, and I almost get hit by another one of those tiny little turrets again, but I managed to defeat the boss in time, so I got lucky there again. Then here is another section where if you can make it into position in time to tensei the large enemies, and it'll make the section a lot easier. So it's a tenseiing and switching quickly between destroying the large enemies and firing on the small ones, and it gets a little tight. You have to kind of be patient and time it, and kind of have faith that the enemy will be destroyed. But it ends up working out, and so now these are all huge enemies, so I'm just holding onto my laser, and then I'm lasering them all, waiting for the bullet cancel and moving on to the next one. I have a hyper floating down, so I'm not going to use that bullet cancel to pick up the hyper. I'm just holding onto my laser, and then hyper there because I was going to get hit anyways, and then just take advantage of all the cancels that are coming in. So this section, there's really no need really to use the main shot. If I was trying to chain the stage, then I would have to definitely use my main shot more, but since I'm just looking for the bullet cancels, then I just pick the targets off one by one. Heading to the final section here. This section is not too bad because of how quickly the enemies die and I get the cancel, so not too shabby. So here we are at Koryu. One thing to note here, that you get the Loop 2 versions of Koryu, so this is pretty difficult, very fast, and it's a stark contrast to the bullet speed and pattern density that you see throughout the entire game. And this is where I say it's really important to have enough resources to make it through, because yeah, here I'm just I'm triggering my auto bomb like crazy, and I'm getting hit and using my hyper defensively, and so I'm just trying to survive as long as possible. And then of course, whenever you do activate your hyper, the rank increases, so the bullets become even faster. So even though you're doing more damage, You have to try to survive even longer to take advantage of the damage increase. So made it through that fight. So now I'm on the Angry Bee. Here we have another really fast pattern. So I just activate my bomb to do as much damage as possible. I have 2 hypers floating down, and yeah, I'll have to practice that because that is very difficult to dodge. I'm sure there are much better strategies that take care of this fight than what I'm doing, but kind of just bowling my way through here. And so now we're in Hibachi, and this has been my run killer where I can go and I have 4 lives in stock, and so I have not been able to clear with 4 lives yet, and so I'm just trying to find my lane and go back and forth and weave my way through here. I have the hyper floating down, and I'm like looking for the hyper to save me. And so here, whenever you, unlike in Arrange S, so whenever you bomb, then Hibachi has a shield, so you cannot damage him with the bomb. And so I'm getting a bit lucky here. I'm just kind of go lateral back and forth here, a quarter of the way through, and this is these needle patterns where I'm certain there's a much better way to dodge those needle patterns, but it's very difficult. And then this is a bit easier. You can kind of time where you're going to dodge back and forth, even though they're kind of fast. So I have 2 lives in stock here, and then trying to last as long as possible. So I hyper, we're in these overlapping patterns where I'm kind of doing pretty well so far, and kind of making my way and traveling along those gaps there, those openings. And I'm just, whenever I use a bomb, I reposition myself. So that's the key. If you trigger a bomb, reposition yourself in the middle, because you do get a little bit of time to damage the boss. And so here we are in the washer machine here. This is really hard. So I think just survive as long as possible and use all the resources that you can. And whenever you do have an opportunity where you hyper or you bomb, which I should have done more here, make your way up to Hibachi, because if you can do some aura damage with him, so damaging him with your laser at point blank, you do a lot of extra damage. And so I should have done that a lot more here, but I'm down to my last life here, and it's gonna get really tight. So I get a Tensei cancel, which I get a split second here. I end up hypering and doing some aura damage, and I'm almost there. Right now I'm sweating bullets, and I'm really nervous, but I'm trying to last as long as possible. I have 2 bombs left, and okay, I'm feeling pretty good. If I just do a little, okay, I end up getting some clutch dodges there, doing little circle patterns to the washer machine. So overall, at this point, had 1 bomb left on my last life, so I am very happy with the result. And here, my heart was pumping, so I'm taking some time to let the screen go to calm down a little bit, because that fight was quite intense for me. And that's a good thing. So a neat thing, even if it's in arrange mode and it's just a 1 loop version, you can have the opportunity to have these really epic fights that are reserved normally in arcades for people who advance through the 2nd loop, and especially 2nd loop white label, which is arguably one of the, if not the toughest clear to do. Then you might not be able to fight Hibachi, and so being able to have that fight in an arrange mode, I think, is a really cool thing that M2 decided to put in the game. And so, especially the actual Hibachi fight, so not an easier version. Well, maybe slightly easier, but since you get the Tensei cancels and the auto bomb. So, but yeah, this is Arrange L, and overall, I think it's pretty good. I do like the bullet cancel portion of it. I wish the hypers were a little longer, but it seemed like an easier and kind of it was very distinct from Arrange S. So overall, I was pretty happy with the mode. So if you enjoyed this commentary, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and drop a like, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.